Dear colleagues, medical laboratory professionals in Ghana, we want to have this live recording with experts, professionals, specialists in their own area of practice, homegrown lab scientists, fully born and bred in Ghana, developed in Ghana, and supporting the cause of medical laboratory practice. And we want to have a discussion with them. Dr. Bernard Nkrumah and Felix Sovo, who is currently the technical person, the head, the lead person with the National TB Control Program. Everything TB in Ghana now, as far as the medical lab personnel and the practice is concerned, revolves around him. So, gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Talking. So, I think I want to open the session with brief introductions. Unfortunately, I will not be able to script because we are doing the live recording. So, I wish I could have written your names and diary for people to know. So, we may have to be vocal. So, I'll start with you, Mr. Nkrumah, to describe who you are and what you are doing in brief before we start the discussions on medical laboratory practice in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Dennis. My name is Bernard Nkrumah. I'm the Global Health Security Technical Advisor for the Africa Field Epidemiology Network. But I'm seconded to CDC office in Ghana. So basically I work for the CDC in Ghana through AFIN. My work largely is to support global health security initiatives by focusing a lot on the diagnostic section or the diagnostic part, the laboratory part, everything that has to do with the diagnostics of global health security, emerging, re-emerging infections, and all that has to do with it. So we're very instrumental in COVID response, in supporting a whole lot of other things in country, including various outbreaks that we've had in country, yellow fever, polio, so anything that has to do with global health security in Ghana, we seek to provide support and assistance to the country. So that's basically what I do.
So can you briefly give us a bit about your training background so that at least people will know what has been your core training? Are you a lab scientist? Who are you?
Well, as you did mention, we are local boys. You know, we started here, we practiced here, we struggled here. So I started with I was at KNUST for a bachelor's in med lab science. Did my internship in Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. From there I moved to KCCR, where I worked there for a while. I worked in KCCR for a while, worked in various projects, vaccine trials, malaria vaccine trial, typhoid fever, quite a lot of things. From KCCR, I joined USCDC as the PEPFAR laboratory advisor for a couple of years, almost 9 years, and then I transitioned to global health security. So I switched from PEPFAR that focused more solely on HIV to global health security that looks at more infectious diseases. So very much homegrown person from KNUST.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nkrumah. UDS, what did you do over there?
Okay, so I was in KNUST for my bachelor's. I did an MPhil in clinical microbiology, also in KNUST. I've done some courses in management and human resource management, postgraduate certificate in those things. I have a master's in public health from Walden University. I've also completed an MLSD in UDS.
That's great.
We hope to add a few more.
That's great. So at least lab scientists having moved in the area of public health, and now with the Doctor of Medical Lab Science, the flagship program is great, and it's good to know that you are one of us, so that when people see you around Dr. Nkrumah, they won't be saying Dr. Bear. So that's good. So TB man, tuberculosis. Please, can you briefly tell us about yourself, what you are doing, your training background?
Thank you very much, Dr. Edujesi. My name is Felix Sobo. However, I have some middle names I normally would not write. So for friends who know me that close, I'm also Kojo and Besa, or what you would normally refer to as Mensa. So I started off as a medical laboratory technician, completed somewhere around 2000, and then started my practice with the Onco-Psychiatrist Chemotherapy Research Center in Hohoe. I worked with the program for 5 years and then came back to Accra to do the BSc at Legon. Subsequently, I went through Konongo. So I started from Obuasi and then went to Konongo. I think the longest I stayed in any one facility was at Konongo. I spent 7 years in Konongo.
That's where I met you.
Yes.
Yes,
We first met in Konongo. Yes.
This is back when we were going on HIV.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. So I was in Konongo, then moved to the Public Health Reference Lab in Ashanti region. And finally, I think the person who convinced me most would be Madame Francisca Jatta. She then was working with Dr. Bonsu as the program manager. Through recommendation, I landed at the TD program as the focal person. I think I have love for politics. It comes natural. So in 2016, 2018, I thought of switching, going into politics. So that led me to pursue a program in Masters in Leadership and Governance with Central University.
That's great. So good to know that all these processes that we are having are being led by people who belong to the practice and the profession. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us and to take us through some of these issues on the medical lab practice. So just moving on, we want to take your view on, at least with the experience you've garnered and how far you've come in the practice, helping and supporting. How have you seen the training of medical laboratory scientists in Ghana, from the lab scientist level, from the lab assistants, the technicians as the diploma holders, and the med lab scientists, being the BSc or the medical, the Doctor of Medical Lab Science? How do you see the training? Is it making us fit for purpose, bringing us up to come and play the exact role that is deserving, or you think that there is a need for certain changes? Felix can take it up first.
So I would speak also partly from experience. And so when I came back to do the BSc, initial confusion I had in mind was it appeared more theoretical, because from my background as a lab technician, we did a lot of theories in the first year. Subsequently, you are introduced to a second year where it is 50-50 kind of training. So you close from a lecture. In the afternoon, you are supposed to do some practical session at the department, and then by the time you get to the third year, you are doing more of practical and only coming to support your practical knowledge with some theoretical exams you take just to mix it up. So at the technician level, we got the skill, though we also had theory. But when we came to BSc, it looked more of theory. And then, yes, of course, you needed to understand why it had to be more of theory. You are moving to a higher level. The level of knowledge in terms of appreciating the science behind what you do needed to be solid. And so it seemed to have given us some kind of advantage. You had the practice or the practical aspect, and the theory was now further being enhanced. So it's a solid training that way. I think for colleagues who did the direct BSc, what at the time they talked about was the fact that they didn't have so much time to do practice or practical aspects. By and large, programs which are now done within the health sector, aside the theory, ends up being more of a practice where you need to understudy somebody and then learn the skills. So yes, you might be the first class student. However, when it comes to practice, it might be a different ball or game, different game altogether. You would have to learn the skill from people. But some of the things do not come by just the theories you've learned. Some of the practices you are introduced to, you probably would never come across in any textbook, but they are kind of what makes the difference in our practice. So for me, that has been the journey or the experience.
Okay, Dr. Nkrumah, so how do you see it? Because it's like yesterday I was having a talk with some of the people who showed up at the Celebrate Lab conference, and people think that there's a need for us to have some kind of paradigm shift, some kind of orientation in our training that will kind of tailor us into thinking we are not only made for the hospitals, but we have other opportunities that as lab scientists we can delve into. So at least with all the way through KNUST, which happens to be the institution that started the first degree program, and having come this far with your international experience, exposure, knowing more about medical laboratory setup and professionals training, what will you say about how you saw training way back in the 2000s and now some more than 15 years ago? How do you think training is supposed to be fashioned? Whether it's still okay, let's keep it as it is, or we need some kind of improvement?
Well, I think Felix, mentioned did a good summary of the training of medical laboratory professionals in Ghana. For me, who went into it fresh without any background or without any prior training, I thought the training was solid, was intense. I remember times at school, second year, first semester. We used to say that if you complete that second year, first semester in KNUST, you don't fail, then you are fine. You finish the course without any problem, because that was the toughest period of the whole program. Now, coming out into practice and being in practice in diverse ways all over these years, I think that it's important for us to acknowledge the fact that the field or the profession of medical laboratory science has changed. There's a lot of revolution that has taken place in terms of the technology of practice, the context of practice, the diversity of practice. And so it is also important that the training should also look at that and factor that into the way students are trained and brought out. In the 2000s, it was really fine. There was not too much of, who would have thought that today you have a point of care PCR machine. It wasn't possible then. So the technology has advanced so much, the practice and the science, the knowledge has advanced so much, and the diversity is now so much that it calls for looking at the way we are trained and the way we are trained and prepared for the laboratory. It's more than just the laboratory, and so it is important that we are trained and prepared and given the mindset that once you are trained and you come out, you should be ready to look at all the other options that are there. Whether you want to go into practice, you want to go into industry, you want to go into research, you want to go into NGO work. I mean, wherever you want to find yourself, you have that background, just the basis and the background for you to build on. I think that is what is very important, and we need to probably add to our training.
No, Dr. DJ, just before you come in, so like Dr. Nkrumah was saying, if you trained as a medical laboratory scientist in Ghana today, the least you can get is to work in the hospital. 1,001 opportunities. And it also serves as a platform, like a springboard for you to do any of the sciences. So like he said, he's done MPH, and now his focus is around things to do with disease control, surveillance. So that's the basics. Again, the introduction of MLS.D has even opened greater opportunities where you do specializations in terms or in areas of practice. And we have colleagues who have also moved into academia. And so you have branches where you could actually specialize and say, I want to be on the bench, but there's my focus, or I want to go into academia. So I would say the least you could practice as a medical laboratory scientist today is to work in the hospital. That's how I see it.
That's great. So what probably we may want to take further is, if the training seems adequate, are we getting the crop of scientists that we expect the training institutions to produce? And of course, if we are talking about the hospitals, are they fit for the place? Do they come out well cooked, or they are bent, or these are substandard that probably we think that we need to beef up with getting the kind of crop of scientists that we need? Are they suitable for the institutions that we are training them for? Do we see them in that manner? At least I know, Felix, you are dealing a lot with lab scientists in Ghana now, because you are in charge of TB control, and by extension now with your bi-direction testing and stuff, COVID is quite instrumental in the role that you are playing. So you are dealing with the core people that are helping in the fight of pandemic and other stuff. Do you see the crop of scientists suitable, or you need to do a lot of training before they are able to catch up and that kind of stuff? Yes, I'm not saying training is not good and people should come out already cooked, but if they are trainable, you get to know that these people have had quite a good experience to manage what they are made for.
Yeah, so Dr. DJ, you recall I indicated that the nature of the work in the hospital, you would have to build knowledge and then come and now practice more like an apprentice. You learn the job. So you have the knowledge and then you practice using the knowledge. So you would want to look at how trainings are done currently. Fortunately for medical lab, today we have a council that regulates the training and practice. As to whether the council is exerting its authority on training institutions, I think that's an issue we can discuss later or look at. But if you ask me personally, probably the Allied Health Profession Council is overly burdened, and particularly to do with the medical lab practice. If we had a separate or a medical laboratory council to focus on things to do with medical lab, it would help. The reason I say so, it all starts and ends with the training institutions. It's what you train or bring out during training that becomes what we see on the bench or practice anywhere else. So if the training is not properly managed, we would have problems going forward. There have been instances where people have completed the BSc schedule. They come to the hospitals to work, and they have difficulties in applying the knowledge they acquired or gained with regards to the practice they are expected to perform. And so you would have people with lower degrees exhibit skills which people with higher degrees fumble to attempt. It's partly because of the way the training has been made. For instance, if you are trained as a technician, you should have a scope of practice where you could do other things. However, anybody who comes to your facility or your work area, you could easily spell it out and say that is the role of the diploma holder technician. And then you could say, okay, so if you wanted to do other specialized testing, or we needed to do this other testing, then we probably would need somebody with higher education, with better skill than the diploma holder. Those distinctions sometimes are difficult to find when it comes to practice. And so it's as if everybody is doing everything, and so nobody really sees the difference. And I'm saying that to begin with, I would start from the regulator, who should exert certain authorities. As you might be aware, from the professional angle of it, the professional body is professing a two-channel of entry. Somebody with a diploma who is a technician, and as it stands now, the focus is for the 4-year BSc to be upgraded to a 6-year MLS.D. A council have not been seen as championing that. Once you have that two clear entry points, it's easy to spell out who is doing and at what time. So I think that thing should come to play going forward. I think Dr. Nkrumah would add to.
Yeah, so as Dr. Nkrumah is coming on board, does that suggest, in addition to maybe talking about the scope of practice, how as a profession maybe we may have to start thinking of specialization? Is that something that probably we may have to look alongside, that we get crop of people? Yes, at the baseline you kind of offer the services needed, but then moving up the ladder, it will be necessary, just like all other professions, probably having a specialist kind of training, which fortunately we are having the West African Postgraduate College for Medical Lab Science. So probably if we can fuse the two and see, because we are talking about training of lab scientists, and at the baseline, basic level, fit for purpose, at least is quite adequate. And I think as things evolve, it suggests what should be added on. I remember when we were in school, there was nothing like pharmacology. But I get to know now, as part of the curriculum, you have to do pharmacology for about 1.5 years. So I think that the things that come up suggest what needs to be added on. And are we at a point in need of specialist training, as you talk about the issue of training and crop of scientists?
Yes, I would agree with you on that. But before I get there, I mean, let's establish and let's all be clear that the level of training is high quality. That is unquestionable. The crop of scientists that have been produced on every time that come out, pretty good people. Pretty good set of scientists that are given the tools they need, to start. But like, every profession, I think we need to really strengthen our mentorships. Because I mean, as you and I would all understand, I mean, it has taken us a lot of years of doing different things, learning from people, and certain skills, develop certain competencies, irrespective of how good you are in school. Once you graduate and you come up, we need to have some form of a mentorship program for the students that come up, or for the graduates. And these mentorship programs should be tailored to ensure that they build the competencies they need at the basic level. competencies in technical competencies, managerial competencies, administrative competencies. They need to be mentored, they need to be coached to build those competencies. It's potentially inherent, but then they must be taught, they must be taken through. So if the student, if the fresh med lab scientists come, for instance, maybe a laboratory director is going for a meeting. I have seen some professional bodies do that. The director, and he has like 3 or 4 mentees, and all they do, they sit in meetings, they take minutes, and as they talk about things, there are specific things that the director will tell them, take note of this, take note of, we'll discuss it later. You see, such things help to build their confidence. Such things help them to learn faster. Such things help them to belong. And so we need to really look at our mentorship programs, establish these strong mentorship programs in our various hospitals and various institutions where we have professionals that have certain competencies that we want replicated. I mean, these are things that we can really think about. Specialization is a must. In fact, it's long overdue. Science has evolved so much. The practice of science has evolved so much that if you take a small area, there is so much within that small area, such that one person cannot even cover everything. So the need to specialize is unquestionable. It's good to know that now even we have our academic institutions, training to the PhD level, and we also have the professionals bodies coming in. We now have the college that is seeking to advance specialization for professionals. And so I would highly encourage that those programs are supported so that we can have highly skilled professionals that are specializing in specific areas that we need in our health system. From the national right down to the district level, we can have these people that are there attending to specific problems, attending to specific issues that need specific people with that knowledge to attend to.
Excellent. So that is great, and it's nice knowing that at least it's just a kind of a mind game. If anybody wants you to feel that lab scientists are nothing, they are not fit for purpose, what kind of training at all are they giving you, and that I've grown to know that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So at times some are political, some will want you to feel demeaning, but at least these are experts in the field. These are authorities in the area of what they talk about and what they discuss and the experience they are sharing. So it's quite assuring to know that as the time evolves, we need to put up the necessary things and meet the task ahead of time.
But Doc, just to cut in, I think Dr. Nkrumah just gave a solution to the gap I thought I was seeing with the training. Mentorship. Now, if we can, perhaps as a professional body, we should consider or look at developing a document on mentorship and make it a core part of the training. We should probably look at it as a function the profession needs to initiate. If we are to keep medical lab in the light which we all wish or want to see. In fact, for instance, much earlier, the highest qualification would have been a University of Ghana diploma. Yeah. Now, if you put those type of colleagues around, their level of thinking or way of working is quite different, because they had picked some skill from early or
first generation technical people.
Very good. And the kind of skills those guys had, it doesn't come that easy. Correct. So we need to get these people still actively transferring knowledge and then skill.
Correct.
And I think we can only do that through mentorship. In terms of mentorship at the school level, I think INCAS, Dr. Basim, started something like that, where he had a program, would visit schools, try to tell them about medical laboratory science and the prospects it offers, and many other things to do. So we had students taking interest and wanting to come in. The part we need to strengthen now has to do with mentorship. Like you said, I've also observed or seen some professional groups try to do that and carry people along. It's something we need to, if we really want to, because you would always come back and say, when we were coming up, the practice was this. As to whether the new generation can also say same about us, I don't know. Because there are lots more people, though, yes, they've been very well taught from the school. Because of maybe our understanding of the manual practice and where you have to learn about principle underlining manual practice and the rest. When we take automation, it's quite easy to appreciate or understand. But, theirs has been more of automation and the background knowledge about how we got to automation. We've left them hanging. So what we need to do is to develop a policy on mentorship and then carry it through. We should, anytime fresh graduates come out and they are posted to facilities or areas to work, we need to get our people there to mentor them. We actually have to assign people to them so that they can build certain qualities and then move on with the profession.
Absolutely agree. And I'll join that call for the professional body to look at redeveloping not just a mentorship policy, but a mentorship program. And of course, the policy will inform the program, but then let's look at investing in mentorship. And we can talk about the whole model for a mentorship program, because I see a different breed of professionals that are coming up. I mean, if you look at our generation, the generation before, you look at the Olagas and the Tetidonkos. I mean, so today, Olaga is still, you sit with him and you don't want to leave his presence, because he has that passion, that skill, that knowledge, that anybody who wishes to learn anything about banking, you don't have to look any further. If Olaga is, of course, he has trained lots of people, but if such a person is still there, why can't we still continue to replicate him as much as we can? So let's look at developing a mentorship program so that our students after school, in the next maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years after school, they'll still go through a mentorship program and exit maybe at the 3rd year or by which time certain skills and certain competencies have been built, and certain mindsets have also been built and inculcated into them. Then by that time we are very confident that we have very good, confident scientists that are going out to execute their jobs.
That's great, excellent, and it's very refreshing to know. Mentorship is, I think we've all learned out of mentorship, seeing people and how we want to be like them, getting closer, and they are also ready to open up to you, letting you know what is available, how you can equally benefit. And then, of course, it comes with discipline for you to also be ready to learn so that you can be the people that you desire to be. You can't be exactly them, but they will definitely lead you to better places. So at least it's good for us to know, once we are fit for purpose, trained and that kind of stuff, what are the opportunities? I know it's a big world, but can you help us bring light to some of the opportunities available to medical laboratory scientists, aside the fact that you just end up in the hospital? Opportunities worldwide. What do you think, and how can you educate us in exploring the opportunities available, grabbing them for our use, and helping ourselves as well as the nation as a whole?
So let me take a bite at that, and then my senior also come in. So in terms of opportunities, I'll best describe it as limitless. I mean, so long as you've had that basic training in medical laboratory science, hematology, chemistry, business, all that, the world is really your playfield. You can go anywhere, you can do anything, basically. I think that probably I've learned this and formed this opinion by talking to a lot of people, that we are afraid to test the waters. We are afraid to step out, because what we know is that when you finish school, do your internship, get your licensure, get your PIN, and then you are waiting for financial clearance, and then you are posted to your district or wherever, and then life starts for you. I mean, that is what we know, and that is what I was doing. In fact, that's what I did. But through a mentor that I had, I was waiting for my posting, and then he's like, Bernard, I think you have to do this way. You have to go this way. And I was like, but he sat me down, spoke to me, and helped me through a certain path. So I decided to take that path, and my life has not been the same. So I think that it's more of we being afraid, or maybe not sure. There's a term that is used. We are not certain of what is at stake tomorrow. After all, if I get employed and posted to the district, I know that every month my salary will come, whether I go to work or not, whether I'm sick or not. But if I decide to venture into something, or the fear of the unknown, what will happen to me if something goes wrong? But nothing will go wrong. So I would say that the world is your playground. Yes, the hospital and the lab is there, but remember that there are so many others. And we have a few of our colleagues that have ventured into the unknowns, and they are doing great things. You just mentioned Dr. Anthony Barton. He's into manufacturing. And the last time I did basic calculations, he can't meet the demand. What will happen if we have a lot more of our colleagues going into that? So that is one area, ICT. Now, I've been dealing with a lot of information systems. Now, we say that we are trying to move from paper to electronic, and that will involve development of laboratory information systems, health information systems. Now, can you imagine a lab scientist who is a programmer? A lab scientist who is a programmer. Can you imagine how he can write programs, information systems for laboratories, how to interface equipment? Because per your training, you know all those things. You know the principles, you know the parameters, you know how the reporting should be, you know all those things. So if you have people going into that, and I know lab people who have fantastic ICT backgrounds, but they are still, they are afraid. I don't know why. But this is a huge area that is, now most of our systems are either coming from India, South Africa, US. But there are few people. In fact, I know of a doctor who is a medical doctor who is now into development of site, and it is being used in some of the teaching hospitals. Fantastic system. So that is an untouched area. Now you can talk of those who want to go into public health, work in international areas. But I would say, if you want to go into the international, please be bi or multilingual. That is a trump card. You can't say you want to go international, you cannot speak French like me. Then you stay here. You can't speak Portuguese or Spanish or anything. Then please start thinking of learning a language today, because it's always something that you need to step into that waters. Let me just round it up by saying that once you finish your program, the world is your playground. There's a certain narrative that has been written for a very long time that when you finish, get your licensure, get your PIN, wait for your clearance, go and work in the hospital. That is the script. But I think it's time that we have all these talent and all these great people. We need to change that script and start looking at entrepreneurship, start looking at technology, ICT, start looking at engineering, start looking at research, start looking at law, start looking at accountancy, start looking at, because if we have time, we can connect all these things back to what we do. Logistics and procurement management.
The hottest cake, man.
I mean, supplies. Look how many lab scientists are into supply of laboratory equipment and machines. Very few. Very, very few. Those that are making it big, they probably have no idea. They are the company, all right, and they have employed lab people working for them. What happens if we have lab people in that space, in the manufacturing space, supplies, reagents? So it is a big playing field, but we are all following the script. If we have a group of people that are going to say that we are going to test the waters and step into the unknown, look, it is going to be a game changer for this profession.
Well, just to add that, I think Dr. Nkrumah has virtually touched on everything, but of course there's also that opportunity to go into academia, and so much to do within that world as well. So once you have medical lab, your teaching is not limited to medical lab programs. You could handle virtually every program within the humanities as well.
Yeah, so that's great. I think I remember when we needed to set up a particular study, that bioequivalence, where we wanted to do some trials with some pharmaceutical company, and one of the screening criteria was for me to get screen people for alcohol use and abuse. So I needed a breathalyzer, and I checked around. The Ghana police had it at that time, so in our locality. So I had to go and talk to them. We wrote officially, and fortunately, theirs was still in a briefcase, brand new. It has not been used. They've never used it. So I had to go and take it now, go to the Standards Authority, get it calibrated and everything and stuff. And in fact, at a point, when the police needed people to be tested, they have to bring them to me, and I will test, including some policemen. If they want to check that, they belong to them. So where did I get to know about equipment in that manner to go and use it? So it's unlimited opportunities out there, and I think we just have to apply ourselves to it. And you can do anything, whatever you have been taught, just bring it to bear, and you realize that there is that vast. We were developing a document to look at the manifestos of the various political parties during the last election. And when we went through the SDGs, you realize that the SDGs, the lab scientists, plays a role in all the goals. All the goals. In the fisheries, in the sea world, in the animal world, medical testing, and everything. I had to develop a proposal with a friend. He wanted us to look at fungal diseases in the frogs. Fungi. So they also have their own level of, is it the cataract or something? I've even forgotten. So medically, you can fuse in there with the animal world as well. When it comes to drug of abuse testing on the road, alcohol testing for drivers, all these things, the lab has a place that we need not to leave the police, the prisons, and all the security agencies just for people out there. The lab has a place, and we need to go and grab it. And I think you gave a lot of exposition on that. So maybe two more issues for us to look at in terms of policies, structures, accreditations. How do you see us evolving, and how do we catch up with the time so that our practice can match up to what is happening in the global world?
Okay. This is
your area, your field, something dear to you. In fact, I just have to add that if we talk of accreditation, quality management systems, and this, a time is coming, we just have to put it on your head. The father of quality management systems, bringing SLAMTA and all those things while you were with the CDC. And I think it's a great feat, and it's good having you to talk about it now.
You see, Dr. Ludius, I've had to fight with people why we have to develop policies. It's like, why do you need policy? If you want to go and do the thing, go and do it. Why do you have to develop a policy to tell you how to do it before you do it? Meanwhile, you know that you should do it. But you see, everything must be guided by a set of principles. If you want development, you need to program it. You need to have a vision of it. How do you want the development to go? What are the steps in the development? What do I have in terms of infrastructure, personnel, capacity, funding? Because all those things come together for you to get a development. If you want to build a house, you need a land, you need sand, you need stones, you need cement, they will not all come together. Some come before the other. You need a land to build the house on. You don't get the house before you get the land. So these are the things that policies, processes, and procedures will do for you. Policies will tell you we are going to build 10 houses in 10 years. That's what a policy will do for you. Give you the big picture. Now, the processes and the procedures will now take that we are going to build 10 houses in 10 years and break it down into activities. Sometimes they call it micro plans. They'll tell you that, okay, because we need 10 houses, we need to figure out where are we going to put those 10 houses. What is going to inform where the house is going to be? What kind of house are we going to build? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom? Who is it for? What materials do we have to get? So you see, the policy will just give you the big picture, but then once you break it down into the processes and procedures, you see that it is not that simple. And that is what we need policies, procedures to do for us, and processes to do for us. We have come very far. We've come very far. I would say that Ghana has done quite well. Not the way that we are expected, because we started very well way back in 2014, 2015. We had the best of labs, going through the SLAMTA program. We had Ghana was probably the first West African country to get 5 labs or 4 labs having 5 stars, and they were just ready. As at that time, 2015, they were ready for international accreditation. We have come very far. It's not anticipated the lab policy had all the challenges that it had, but irrespective of that, we've come very far. And I would say that we still need to get some policies in place. We need to develop some policies to guide and to guard some of the work that we do. One of the things that we probably have to do, we talked about tiered level. We need to get a tiered level plan or a tiered level policy or a tiered level guidance in place. Now, why do we need that? We run a tier system. So we have the national, regional, district, sub-district. National, we have the teaching hospitals, regional hospitals, district hospitals, and then from there have sub-district CHIPS company. You realize that in terms of personnel, infrastructure, capacity, testing load, they are not the same. And so you not expect that the performance of a district hospital will be the same as the performance of a national hospital, i.e. a teaching hospital. Their strengths are different. And so we need to define each one for what they can do and what they should have. How many staff at minimum must a teaching hospital have? How many departments should they have? How many equipment must they have? What level of equipment, and so on and so forth. That is the tier level. What tests should they do? We have to define all that, and we need a national guidance on that, a national guideline on Diagnostic algorithm. What is diagnostic algorithm? So, or let me rephrase that. So, once you are doing a tiered level, what you probably also want to add to that is what test needs to be done where. The truth of the matter is that it will be very difficult for every country to say that we are going to equip every laboratory in every corner of this country to have the same capacity. It will never happen.
Sure.
It can never happen because it is expensive. It is expensive not just for the equipment and the setup, no. After you have bought the equipment and setup, there are other issues that you have to deal with. You have to deal with logistics management, and that one you deal with it so long as you have the equipment. So imagine that you have 20 equipments. You have 20 equipment to deal with maintenance, logistics, training, quality assurance, external proficiency for 20. Now, if you have 10, you do the same thing, but you realize that 10 and 20 is easier to do the 10 than to do the 20. So most of the times we are very much excited about getting equipment. Oh, we need to buy equipment. We need to buy equipment. It is nice. It's great because I want to see equipment in my lab. It's good. But as you buy the equipment, what happens to it is that you are buying indirectly a lot of other things. One of the things I've mentioned is logistics management, maintenance, calibrations, trainings, quality, external quality assurance. All those things come as part of the equipment you have bought. So we need to define through the tier system and say that at the teaching hospital we are going to do this level of test. So if you are at the district hospital and you get this test, you don't have the machine. So send your sample to the national level, let them test it for you. After it's tested, the results will be sent back to you. We need to holistically look at that and establish a system for that, because the truth of the matter is that we cannot buy equipment and put everywhere. Even when we do, we'll still have problems maintaining them, buying reagents for them, training people to work on them, establishing EQA systems, and so on and so forth. So tiered levels, tier system is a must that you must do. There are other policies that needs to be in place. One of the things that just comes off the top of my head is a national sample referral system, an integrated one for that matter. Again, let's not be oblivious of the fact that we cannot put capacity everywhere. It will never happen. It will never happen. Even advanced countries don't have tests everywhere. If you go to a place where they don't do a certain test, they will take your sample and refer the sample. They don't test it there, but they will take your sample and refer it to another lab that does that test. The report will come back. So when you come back to that hospital, your report is waiting for you. It will never be possible for us to put a gene expert everywhere. It will never be possible for us to put a viral load machine everywhere. It will never be possible to put a 5-part differential hematology everywhere or a chemistry machine everywhere. It will never be possible because you don't have that resources. And it's not just Ghana or Africa, everywhere. And so it is important that we develop an integrated referral system. What does that mean? If I go to a district lab and I'm going to do a certain test and they don't have it, it is not bad. They can just take my sample and through that referral system send it to Kolebu, Konfanoche, Ho, wherever a specialized lab is. They will test it and then send the results back through an electronic means. When we set up those systems, it makes our lives very easy, very efficient. There are other policies and other things that we need to put in place just to ensure that our systems can work. Because the truth of the matter is that we cannot build capacity everywhere. And so we just need to maximize the capacities we have. If you buy a machine that has a throughput of 15,000 tests per month, and you are running that machine on 10,000 tests per month, what have you done? Economically, you are wasting money. So instead of buying one machine and ensuring that you can maximize the capacity of 15,000 tests per month, you are buying 3 of that machines and putting it at 3 different places, and you are running 10,000 tests per month on each. In effect, you should have run 150,000 tests a month. You are rather running 30,000 tests per month because you have 3 machines, 3 places, and you are doing only 10,000. Meanwhile, one machine alone can do 15,000. So these are the things that we need to look at. It's not just about buying the machines. It's not just about the investment. You need to look at the economics and the finance of it. So the policies are important. That we develop more and help the lab to be more profitable. You see, it's business, so that the lab will be more profitable. It will make profits, and the hospitals can make profit out of it. Businesses can grow out of it, and so on and so forth. So let me just end here.
That's extensive, Dr. Well, that's extensive. So probably what I would add to your take on policies would be to look at also certification and then licensing. I think since 2013, thereabouts, when the Allied Health Profession Council came into being, there have been a lot of progress in terms of medical laboratory science across the country. A few challenges, however, still persist. You would expect that having been in the system for close to 10 years, you should be perfecting some of the things. It would surprise you to know that as at 2022, we are still seeing quackery. A lot of quacks in the system. And some, strangely, get certified by people within the council. Now, one of the expectations from medical laboratory professionals has been that the council would set up committees or systems and occasionally come around to see which people are in active practice. And for about 18 different categories of professions under the council, if the council is not proactive, anybody at all can do anything. But we currently have laws in the country that shows who should do what or who should be doing what. And so there's a challenge for me that in this almost 10-year period that the council have been operating, we could still see quacks in the system. And it doesn't help the practice of medical lab science in Ghana. So it's an area of concern to me. Okay. Now, again, like you rightly said, policies and standards. Now, if as a country we had been able to develop the National Health Laboratory Policy, most of what you were saying would have been easy to carry through. As it stands now, because we don't have an established policy, and people in power want us to do things which are in the policy, it's happening as if we are not organized in terms of how things are being done. And so you see bits and pieces of what you talked about happening in small or some defined ways, but really doesn't flow as your thought was flowing. So we will still need that policy that guides the practice of medical laboratory science in Ghana, such that you know that at this level you are seen as maybe sub-district. At this level you are operating as a district facility. And so certain tests, naturally, you wouldn't want to even attempt it, because by practice, the schedule have limited you. And once you are picking up those type of samples, it's supposed to go to a higher level or a next level. Then within that arrangement, a hospital or a facility is not burdened that because I have this person who trained at this place, I need to put in our equipment at all costs. When placing that type of equipment then becomes a burden, because then you are unable to even match the numbers like you were mentioning just now. So you have an equipment that is worth so much thousands of dollars, yet the output of the equipment is far less. Where in which case the actual request which maybe a physician or a clinician would require to manage a certain case does not require you placing that sophisticated equipment in that particular environment. So like you are saying, it's true. We need the policy, and the policy should be well understood by people in authority or people in power, so that the application of the things which the policy dictates can be done in an organized way and it's visible for all to see. I think those are some of the things which are lacking in the system.
I would agree with you. I mean, policies really spelled out, a systematic manner that things needs to be done, and policymakers and stakeholders can take that and implement that in a systematic manner, working of course with the various stakeholders that are within that space. So I very much agree with you. I think one other thing that was just escaping my mind is accreditation. There's been a lot of enthusiasm and talk about accreditation, these couple of years, and that is good. And I am seeing, if I cast my mind back, 2011, and I see now, I see a lot of increase, a lot of progress, a lot of enthusiasm for accreditation. But I also think that we need to be circumspect about and real about accreditation. I absolutely support accreditation. We must go for it. I know that a couple of years back, we have a Ghana version of ISO 15189 through Ghana Standards Authority, and there was even a document developed out of that to help define the minimum standards that needs to be attained or achieved by each of the tiers. Like I said, a district hospital lab, we don't expect them to have the capacity of a teaching hospital lab. Okay, so if their minimum standards should not necessarily be the same as a teaching hospital. I think that for a country, we need to come to the point and decide that accreditation is not for everybody.
Sure.
In fact, we have to look at two levels of accreditation: international accreditation, national accreditation. I would strongly advocate that as a country, if all our teaching hospital labs are accredited internationally, that is in order.
Sure.
Because that's the highest level, that is the referral point. Even regional hospitals, if they are all accredited internationally, I think that would be a good thing. I'm happy that I think Ghana has the National Accreditation Service. So it's it would be good that we work with them to help us get all these labs, and these national labs, regional labs, public health labs, reference labs, research labs, because these are where we will look up to for guidance and for everything. And so if all these labs are accredited internationally, I think that is good. For district hospitals, I would not really say that they should all go to international accreditation. One,
Sure.
is expensive.
Sure.
So if we are working with bodies like Ghana Accreditation Service, Ghana Standards Authority, so that we define or we come up with a national accreditation system, so that all our district labs will go through a national accreditation program, so that every district lab will also be accredited nationally. And by accreditation, I don't mean the NHIA accreditation. I mean proper quality management systems accreditation by, say, Ghana Standards Authority. Ghana Accreditation Service, where all these district labs and sub-district labs will demonstrate a certain level of competency. I think that would be great. That would be perfect. Then we know that our regional and national labs that are our references are comparable to every lab everywhere on the surface of this universe. And our district labs are adhering to standards as defined by either the Ghana National Accreditation Service or Ghana Standards Authority. There should be something that these labs must conform to. If we're able to do that, it's sort of that in itself will sanitize our laboratory system, because I mean, if you know the way how the accreditation goes, it's competency based. There are things that if you don't belong there, the system will spin you out by itself. So I mean, you can't belong. So certainly accreditation is something that is good, and I think that we should all be supporting, but it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody because it's expensive. Even though it's good, it's expensive. It's not cheap. And so if you want to go into it, you must be prepared to pay. But the returns far outweighs how much you put into it. And so for our national and regional hospitals, I think the benchmark should be international accreditation. For our district hospitals below, the benchmark should be a national accreditation, and I think our lab should be very fine.
But Dr. Nkrumah, I think there are a few things that probably we should also look at. Things to do with funds. Accreditation, like you keep saying, is expensive.
Yes.
And it takes the buy-in of management or facility leadership to want to go into standards and then accreditation. Now, what is the situation in Ghana? You've seen it here, so maybe you can talk about it.
Yes, and I guess I just have to say, you see, it's expensive. When I say expensive, I don't also mean to say that it's like huge cost, but it's expensive. I mean, you have to part ways with that. Maybe $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, depending on the state of your laboratory and the kind of accrediting body that you want to engage. Okay, I know SANAS is probably the most expensive. If you compare SANAS, SATCAS, and KENAS, I think SANAS might be a little bit higher. SATCAS and KENAS, yeah, but it all depends on the process you go through. So funding, yes. You see, fellas, laboratory is a business.
Sure.
Laboratory is a business. Whether it's public or private, it's business. And I believe that every hospital management knows that the laboratory makes money.
Definitely.
Now, if I'm a businessman, which I hope to, one day probably have my own specialized laboratory. I want a highly specialized laboratory. Now, if I get my lab to be accredited, the returns on my investment far outweighs the investment I put in. Why do I say so? Once my lab is accredited, ISO 151, you see the thing, it is comparable to every laboratory on this surface of this universe that has also gone through that same process. So if there's a lab in America, US, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, wherever, that is ISO 15189 accredited, and my lab here in Ghana we are the same. Of course, we are comparable within acceptable limits. It puts my marketability at a certain level. 37 Military Hospital got accredited in 2015? I'm not so sure, 2015 or 2016. And they've gone through a second round. And they are still accredited. If it's not good, why have they not forgotten about it? So the return on investments is always better and far outweighs what you put in.
Sure.
But you see, we should look at it as a business, probably because it is a public sector. So, but it's a business. We should look at it as a business. Like I was telling you, if you are buying an equipment and your throughput for the equipment far less than your need for the equipment, why do you buy it? Because after you've bought it, you've lost. Now we are doing a lot of placement system, which is good. But you see, it's the same thing. The only difference is that with the placement, you are not going to buy it. They are giving it to you. But you still have to meet a minimum testing numbers.
Sure.
If you don't meet that minimum testing numbers, they give the reagent to you at a higher price. You are still losing. Even though you didn't carry a lot of money to go and buy the equipment, if you don't meet that minimum testing numbers, you are going to buy the reagent at a higher price. You are still losing.
Yeah.
You see, so it's high time we look at the lab as a business, and lab managers, lab directors, hospital managers, they should start probably engaging the services of people who are more enlightened in some of these things, so that they help them to plan in setting up their labs. You see, everybody wants to set up a lab. I want to go and buy a machine, buy hematology, buy this. Then I ask you a question: how many tests do you do per day, per week, per month? Do this amount. Okay, so then why don't you rather go and buy or go and lease this equipment versus that equipment? Because you have to look at the dynamics. At the end of the day, you want to make profit. So lab is a business. So let's have a business mindset and run it as a business. Accreditation is profitable any day, anytime, anywhere, anyhow, anywhen. And so we have to pursue accreditation. It lifts our labs, it gives us a lot of credibility. It gives us, we can compete for anything, we can bid for anything, we can do all the tests. 37 is an example. Right now, National Public Health Reference Laboratory is accredited. It's an example to look up to. And I want to see more of the teaching hospitals and regional hospitals getting accredited. I'm tired of hearing it's expensive, we are not getting money, NHIA doesn't pay, all that is textbook excuses that I've heard for the past 10 years. I'm used to all those things. Give me a scenario of, okay, take a regional hospital within a region. If you take out sick people who are coming with NHIA, how many corporate organizations do you have there? Out of that, how many of them do medical exams for their staff? How many food vendors are there? The district assemblies and the municipal assemblies, food vendors testing and all that. Now, if hospitals are going to sit down and collaborate with national, district and municipal assemblies, do you know how many food vendors testing they do every year?
Quite a lot.
It's a lot. If you have corporate organizations within your region and your lab is accredited, how far do you have to go in telling them that bring your staff to my hospital, to my lab? Your results are good, they are sure. You see, I don't know, but I think that, if I see it as a business, then I'll probably will be doing that business model. Because I think we need to look at it, look at our labs differently. It's a business, and we have to run it as a business.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. I think the issue about policy, the issue about standards, ensuring that your lab test can be compared with what happens elsewhere cannot be underestimated.
Yeah.
Now, imagine your lab results comes up and it becomes doubtful, the years you spent in burden that lab.
It's a credibility issue.
Yeah.
It's like you are chewing granite. Yeah. You have a scoop of granite and then you put everything into your mouth. There are plenty of them, but that one bad granite makes the taste of the entire granite in your mouth very sour.
Yeah.
And so you spill everything out. So one bad result is as bad as everything, and that can damage a reputation. And that is why setting up those standards are very important. That is not to say that we cannot get a bad result. It's possible. But that is why we set up all the checks and balances from QCs to result verification and all that, so that we ensure that even if we missed it at one point, the final person who verifies the result and authenticates the result before it goes out can catch every mistake or every, before the result goes out. So yes, mistakes are possible, but once you set up those systems and set up those standards, it makes sending out bad result very difficult. It doesn't happen. It will rarely happen, because you always catch it before it goes out. So that's the good thing about setting up these standards.
Well, I think the discussion would continue some other time.
Yes.
There's so much to discuss around medical lab and the practice of medical lab in Ghana.
Correct.
I think we've seen a lot of advances in the last 10, 15 years in terms of education, in terms of scope of practice, in terms of availability of equipment, logistics, There still are challenges, but those challenges are not things we would really consider as drawbacks, which should make a person who wants to venture into medical laboratory science panic or think twice about it.
Yeah.
You want a profession you want to boast of. You want a profession you want to become somebody anywhere, everywhere, that people can easily fall on, that you could easily move from one area of practice into another without stress. Then you probably are looking at the medical laboratory sciences.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. But you see, let's also not forget that hard work pays. All the things that we are saying, yes, once you train and you come out and you can fit anywhere, you can do anything, you can go anywhere, but it doesn't come on a silver platter though. So we have to be determined, we have to be focused, we have to be respectful. And let me repeat this. We have to be respectful. We have to be respectful to our colleagues. We have to be respectful to our juniors, respectful to our seniors. That is very important. That is very important. In the professional arena, you show a lot of respect to our seniors. You don't have to agree with a person. You don't have to be friends. You don't have to agree. But once you are in that professional environment, you can have intellectual discussions. You can agree to disagree, but it has to be very I always love the lawyers when they are debating. Hot debates, but respectfully. It's an opinion that you have. I have an opinion, you have an opinion. Express yours, I express mine. At the end of the day, depending on how you argue or how I argue, my argument based on a certain scientific fact may be more sound than yours. That does not mean that yours is not correct. So, being tolerant of each other and respecting each other. I can't say this enough. Respect is something that we need a lot. If we are growing, we need a lot of tolerance and a lot of respect for each other. We are professionals. We are within the field, but the field is so big that we can't always agree on one thing. If we all agree on one thing, then
the world would have come.
I mean, how that shouldn't be possible. So there's beauty in diversity. Let's have different opinions, but let's all express it differently. The fact that you want to do this and your boss says no, don't do this, do it this way. He's your boss. There's something he or she knows that you don't know. So if you don't understand, you respectfully find out. Ask. If you think that what he or she is telling you, you still have a different opinion, you respectfully, boss, I hear you, but if you can also allow me to express this opinion that I have. I mean, it's the way we speak and the way we express our opinions to our subordinates. Hey, shut up, what do you know? Sit down. I mean, when you do that, then you kill the enthusiasm in people, allow them to express. But then also, as a subordinate, when your boss allows you or gives you the platform, you don't misuse it. You don't misuse the platform. Once you are entrusted with something, you do it and do it well. And let's be respectful to each other. Let's be respectful to each other in this profession. That is very important. And we've come far. Really, we've come far. Charlie, we've come far.
I think I like the last part of it where you emphasize on the need for respect. Well, I don't know which mentor goes to mentor a mentee and wouldn't expect that you show him some respect. At least in this area of field where you would need to learn things from people, you might come up with new ideas. People have been practicing with their old ideas and have been getting or achieving results. So if you are even in with new or fresh ideas,
you don't go and rubbish what they are doing.
Very good. There's a way you go about it, or try to introduce it such that it would gain grounds for acceptability,
Absolutely.
and then we would work with it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's been a great and a lengthy discussion. Looking at the comments that are here, people expressing great interest in the mentorship, saying it's a great deal. Laboratory is a big business, and it's known that Sovo, you've hit on great concerns. People are asking the MLSD, why is it only UDS? And these are issues that definitely we will make another time to get the responsible people to handle. If we are fortunate to get people like Prof. Nafui, who is championing that cause at UDS, we want to know what hurdles he's gone through, why the others are not accepting it or not implementing, and probably the regulator could answer some of these questions. We will be wrapping up on our discussion, but it's quite important for us to know you walk everywhere around dotted facilities as to whether it's approved or not approved, using the rapid platform to test. Rapid this, rapid that, creatinine, that. So in the context of automation and rapid testing, what is the future like for medical laboratory practice? Maybe we can briefly hit on that, and I know it will be a major topic some other time to discuss.
This one is a whole topic.
We want us to start a new discussion.
Point of cares, I always say that point of cares have come to stay. In fact, they came to stay a long time ago. And they came in to fill a gap. There were probably resource limited settings. Laboratories were inadequate. Level of capacity was not there. Very few people were trained, professionally trained laboratory personnel, and so on and so forth. And the demand was so huge that the supply was not, we couldn't meet it. And so how do we simplify things? How do we bring in, and these are policies that came from the WHO, multitasking and all those things, Now we've gotten to the point where now technology is becoming so simplified that certain tests that used to be done in a complex way have all been made simple. But I think that in all this, the lab still has a very key role to play. If you ask me, I would say that tests like malaria, RDTs, HIV, and all those things, it's okay for the purposes for which they were made, and for the need that they were made to fill. If you go to a CHIPS compound, where somebody comes in the night and the person is severely sick, and they have an RDT that a nurse can use to test, to screen, and please, I'm using my words carefully, to screen and be able to start treatment and save the person's life before referring the person to a district hospital or the next level for healthcare, it is not a bad idea. To save lives. So if these point of cares are used as the screening tools that they are intended to be used for, to start treatment, save a person's life, and refer to the next level for treatment, that is not bad at all. Now, one key role that I see that medical laboratory scientists can play in this is that, you see, lab scientists have been trained and understand the principles of RDTs and how they work and how they function and all that. So I think we can play more of a supervisory role to those that are testing.
Sure.
We can play a supervisory role. We can even work collaboratively with the government and with other agencies to set up an external proficiency system that we can use to monitor the quality of the test that these guys are doing. If we can work with, let's say, Ghana Health Service or any of the stakeholders to set up, let's say, a national EQA system for let's say, malaria RDTs or HIV RDTs, and everybody who can test at, let's say, the lower levels, or anybody who tests HIV goes through this EQA program, maybe once or twice a year. We send you panels, you test, we analyze and say, okay, you are doing well, or you don't do well, we come to you, you had this wrong, you do it this way, this is how it's done, this is how it's done. We should be seen to be providing more of that supervisory and that monitoring role to ensure that the test that is being done is done correctly. Because at the chips company, you don't have somebody there. Probably it's only a midwife, or it's only a public health nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not out of place that person is using an IDT to screen and start diagnosis and refer. It's okay. But how do we ensure that the test that the person is doing it right? Take 1 drop of the buffer, the person is not taking 2 drops. Take 2 mL of the supernatant or the plasma. If you take the plasma, take 1 drop. If you take the whole blood, take 2 drops. There's a reason for this. There's a reason, because if you take the plasma is more of the fluid. So if you add 1 drop, it flows. If you take the blood and the parasite is in the blood, you first need to hemolyze the blood before it can flow. So you need more drops. But a healthcare assistant may not understand this.
Mm-hmm.
All they know is that you just add a thing and put it there, and then it is going. So if this is not done properly, the test will be wrong. Sure. And that is where we come in. And so if we come in to play that supervisory role, that monitoring role, checking on them to ensure that they are doing the right thing, I don't have any problem with that at all.
Wow. I think you try to talk about this sensitive issue. It's quite a dicey area, and of course, personally, I've had conversations around. So why don't we get a lot more laboratory people coming? Because now we are training huge numbers. But like you rightly said, I think the key issue you mentioned and addressed it much earlier, that we run a tiered system where any government would want to look at being efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the sub-district level, what are the basic things I need for somebody to manage a patient whilst we do arrangement to move the person to be seen by a higher authority or a physician or a team? So definitely at that level, then it becomes difficult to say, okay, I'm posting a complete set of health personnel or professional there, because there is a purpose or an intention at that level. So yes, of course, RDTs becomes very useful. And today, I think Dr. Yan showed us or indicated a situation where now in schools, children are given test kits to do self-testing.
Wow.
And when they are done, they have to report the results into a system.
Really?
And then
Through their school in the
through
US.
their school
Okay.
into a system.
Okay.
And then the school further pushes it to the district or the healthcare providers.
Okay.
So that is the extent to which others have gotten to.
Okay.
And I asked that question yesterday, that what is it about Africa or about us that makes us lag so much behind? Said that when transitions are happening, it could take a century before it gets to Africa. So some of these things we cannot debate or fight it much. At certain levels, certain testing can be allowed. And as it moves up and it becomes complex, you who is trained or fashioned to do those type of complex testing comes in. I think the area we would have to look at and then possibly focus more on would be, how do we ensure quality for what is coming out of these RDTs? Because RDTs, though they are good, assuming the test is supposed to be positive and you are reporting them as negative, it's worse than not doing a test at all.
It's dangerous.
So it's that system which is currently not in place, that as professionals we should be focusing on. Again, it comes back to policy, like you said, and then putting in documentations that shows how things should be done across board. So that's how I see this RDT issue.
That's fine. I think it's been a great discussion. We will delve deeper into this area in subsequent engagements, and because it's becoming a scare as to whether the automation and rapid diagnostic test platforms are going to take over the jobs that lab scientists are supposed to do. But it's important we all get to appreciate and understand that these things are coming on board. The next generation testing platforms, we still have to see how best we are useful in that regard. And there is no way that our job can be taken over if we apply ourselves to the changes and make sure we learn alongside. Because definitely we will still need a technical advice, the technical processes. And one thing I tend to understand is that we have to draw the lines between screening, diagnostic procedures and methods, and for human care. You can do your pregnancy test in your bathroom. Nobody cares about it.
Sure.
But once it's going to be for patient management, then not anybody. Else, why don't we tell patients who come to the hospital when they suspect they are pregnant that go and do your test and come, then we take the results and manage you with it. But we have to get a professional to do it. So all these things they have their situation in the context of screening, in the context of getting some kind of information, in the context of patient management, in the context of making some policy decisions. It's not everybody who can. You can't just go and test. You come and I'll trust your results and put it on my results sheet and say that, oh, you did the pregnancy test, it's positive, so I say it's positive. No. Then you go and manage the person. No. Or somebody starts antenatal care because I did my pregnancy test at home. It was positive. Then you also go ahead, oh, pregnancy positive. Then you start using it to take decisions and stuff. So we just have to know where and when one can apply all these things. And I think it's a matter of policy issues. If our system will have to set the policies and make them right and know the application of all these methods so that we know that we are helping the management of patients and not just throwing them to the hands of anybody. It's been a great discussion with Dr. Bernard Nkrumah, Felix Sovo, and on issues spanning from training and the crop of scientists that we have, available opportunities to practice medical lab science, and the policy structures and accreditation processes in Ghana. We delve also into areas of specialization, and of course ended up on matters that border on rapid test kits and automation facilities. So honorables, I appreciate the time. I had to just whisk you out of another great meeting to come and engage you on this. And I must say, this is the first live interview we have had on GAMLS TV, the YouTube page, and I'm happy to have done that interview. In fact, this should go down unless internet collapses. Else everybody will come and know that the first interview we did was handled with these gentlemen, and we pray that we keep on engaging and educating our people to know that the future is bright. It's not by accident you find yourself with medical laboratory science. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Let's go with this and be the right people for Ghana. Thank you, and thanks to our audience and those who have engaged us with the comments and all other discussions. Nice having you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Charlie, 1 hour, 30 minutes.